Hi everyone, it's Rax. I've been asked a million times, how do you play solo Thorns in Season 18? About a week ago, I posted a video of me taking rank 1 with this build, so that build has the entire gameplay and the walkthrough through how to do it, but one thing I don't have on my channel is how do you gear for it and what are you looking for and how do the skills work. So in this video, we'll be covering all of that. And in the description and as a pinned comment, I will have the link to the full clear and gameplay where I will tell you exactly what to do with all of these skills. So this video will just be the gear and the skills, and at the end I'll show you the gameplay. Another thing that I've been told is that my webcam blocks part of the gear, so I will just turn it off and we will continue like this so you guys can see everything. See, I do listen to you guys. Here we go. The first thing that I want to tell you is this is a Thorns build, meaning when monsters attack our skeletons, the Thorns damage is going to hit them back and deal damage to them. So there are a few ways we can increase our damage. We can get more Thorns rolled as a secondary. We can roll command skeleton damage. We can take physical elemental damage because Thorns is physical. And we can roll elite damage. So whenever we can get those stats, we're going to take them. And also intelligence is going to increase the damage of Thorns. Other than that, we're going to take all survivability. So we're going to take vitality, percent life, armor, all resist. That's what we need if we're not going for damage. We don't need attack speed for this build. We don't need crit hit chance. We don't need crit hit damage because Thorns cannot crit. Cooldown does help us a little bit with our golem, but it's not mandatory. So it's either damaging stats or survivability all the time. The weapon, Tragul's Corroded Fang. When we curse something, they're going to take 200% increased damage. This is best in slot. Int, Vite, Elite damage, and cooldown rolling off the damage range at the top. The damage range does absolutely nothing for Thorns, so this would be the perfect setup. We're going to aug with Intelligence to deal additional damage, and in the cube we have Spear of Hyro. Whichever one of these rolls better, you can wear and then cube the other, and we are going to socket with a Topaz to get the 38,000 Thorns damage. Now on to Bone Ringer. This is the item that makes the entire build work. The damage bonus of command skeletons is going to increase by 30% every second they spend attacking the same target or commanded on that target. So as you're going to see in the gameplay video here in a moment, what I'm going to do when I zone into a rift is I'm going to command on an elite that I do not think is going to die, and I'm going to kite him through the whole level. And over time, the skeleton's going to do 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more damage. And eventually, everything is just going to start one-shotting itself by the time that you get to the end of the floor. This is the hardest item to get for the build, so this is what I would spend your blood shards on feverishly to try to get one of these. You do want it to be ancient, because it's a Legacy of Dreams build. You want it to be as close to 30% as possible. I wouldn't play with anything lower than a 29. You need the command skeletons roll on the Bone Ringer. Then the second best roll is actually the elite damage roll, and then finally the Thorns. Int and Vite should be easy enough to get, hopefully. The problem with Bone Ringer is it always rolls with crit hit chance, which we don't want, so we're always going to end up rolling that off. But at a minimum, at a very minimum, try to get an ancient Bone Ringer with 30% with 15% command skeleton damage. And then try to add the elite damage and try to add the Thorns if you can get it, but it's very difficult to get. But this is what the entire build is based around. Illusory boots are going to let us pass through monsters. You get these boots from Act 2 bounties, so that's the way to get them. Full survivability here. Int, Vite, all resist, armor. Try to get the Thorns secondary. Golem Skin Breaches. This is going to reduce our cooldown and we're going to take less damage. We do have a golem and we do need the survivability because we're going to be walking around in super high greater rifts trying to win, so this is going to help us stay alive. Int, Vite, and armor with Thorns. Same story here as with the weapon. We have Hexing Pants in the cube and whichever one of these rolls better, wear one and cube the other. In your 2 armor slots, you can put either strength gems or dexterity gems for increased armor to stay alive. But if you find that you don't need it, you can put topazes for extra intelligence to deal more damage. But when you're first starting out, definitely put in strength or dex gems so you get the armor so you can stay alive and get a feel for how tanky you are. Unity for solo is going to give us 50% damage reduction. This is going to help us stay alive. If you are feeling very tanky and you're feeling very ambitious, you could switch this for a Stone of Jordan to get the 20% physical damage and the 30% elite damage. I would definitely start with Unity and test your survivability, because if you die, it's over. Okay? Intelligence, percent life, or vitality, and elite damage is what we want, with Thorns as the secondary. And the gem, the Legacy of Dreams gem, this is how our build works. We want every item ancient or primal ancient, and it's going to make us do more damage and take reduced damage. Okay? Should be familiar with that. Convention of the elements on our physical rotation, we're going to deal significantly more damage. Necros only rotate through 3 elements, so this is going to be a big damage increase. Int, Vite, and percent life is what we're going for. And even though you can roll Thorns, 3,500 Thorns on both of the rings, on one or the other, I would strongly recommend that you take a reduced duration crowd control impairing roll. And the reason why is this build is very, very scary if you get jailed or frozen. You can get vaporized in the blink of an eye, and taking just one of these rolls and giving up 3,500 Thorns is definitely worth it. So on one or the other rings, I would recommend that you take that. And Enforcer is going to give us increased damage and make our pets take 90% less damage. This is actually significant for solo, because if our pets die, then their Bone Ringer stacks are reset. So we do need to take Enforcer. Dainty's Binding, we get 50% damage reduction when enemies are cursed. Everything's going to be cursed, so free 50% damage reduction, and we want full survivability stats here with the 9,500 Thorns roll. Moribund Gauntlets, this is important because our golem is going to shed a corpse. We don't have any way to generate essence except with Devour. So the golem shedding a corpse is going to let us devour and get our essence back and give us our satiated. We'll take Int, Vite, Armor, and Cooldown here with the Thorns roll. Deathwatch Mantle, I would strongly encourage these shoulders. I wouldn't use any other shoulders. The reason why is the 35% chance to explode in the Fan of Knives that does weapon damage. We don't give a French toast about the weapon damage. The important thing is the Fan of Knives explosion procs the first level of Crispin Sentence. Okay, and since we don't have Bane of the Trapped, since we have to take Legacy of Dreams this season, this is very important for the damage increase for the monsters near you. So I would definitely take Deathwatch Mantle here. Int, Vite, percent life, and command skellies with the Thorns roll. Andarios is the only helmet that can roll physical elemental damage, so that's what we'll take. And then full survivability along with Int, Vite here. And you can take the CDR gem to bring your golem back, or if you want, you can put in an amethyst just for more health, for more survivability. Aquila, when we have over 90% resource, we're going to take 50% less damage. We're going to stay alive. Int, Vite, and command skellies with the Thorns roll is what we need here. Flavor of Time, we want physical, Int, Vite, and cooldown. Remember, Flavor of Time always rolls with cooldown and movement speed, so we'll keep the cooldown there and roll the movement speed off to hopefully one of these stats that we're missing. And we would love the secondary to have the 9,500 Thorns roll, and we'll take Boyarski's here, which is going to give us 136,000 Thorns. That's actually more than half of our total Thorns just coming from one gem. And then rounding out the gear, Nemesis Bracers, we need elites, and so it's going to be very important to wear these. We'll take physical, Int, Vite, and armor with the Thorns roll. Okay, let's move on to the skills. Devour, Satiated. Devour is going to be our only way to generate essence, and what we're going to devour is, first of all, the things that we kill, but also our golem is going to be shedding a corpse from our gloves, and that's going to give us full essence to cast our curses, and our satiated rune is going to give us higher maximum life to stay alive. Okay, leech cursed ground. When we have big clumps of monsters, and that's what we're going to have because everything's going to be following us, when we curse the ground under them, it's going to give us tremendous survivability and sustain to stay alive. Golem, bone golem. We take the golem, first of all, so we can shed a corpse, so we can actually generate essence and stay alive, and also for the 30% damage reduction. But there's also two other functions for the golem. First of all, the golem can move monsters forward for us with very good golem placement. So this is something that's going to take a little bit of practice, but use the golem to move monsters forward. And also you can use the golem to proc the 300% level of your Chrisman sentence, because the stun on either Rift Guardians or when monsters are casting affixes like Frozen will just instantly kill them, especially if you're in the physical cycle in your pink ring. Bone armor is going to keep us alive, and Thy Flesh Sustained is going to increase our life per second and give us some survivability. Another possibility is instead of Thy Flesh Sustained rune, you could take Harvest of Anguish to move around better. But start with Thy Flesh Sustained and just make sure that you can stay alive. Frailty Scent of Blood is going to kill enemies when they're at 15% or lower, and it's going to make everybody take 15% increased damage. Command Skeletons. Obviously we have to take Command Skeletons. It's what our whole build is based around with the Bone Ringer. And Dark Mending is going to heal us a little bit and just help us stay alive. Onto the passives. Spreading Malediction, we're going to get 1% damage bonus for every enemy that's cursed. We're going to curse everything. Big damage increase. Draw Life is going to increase our life regeneration for all the enemies near us. Big survivability. Fueled by Death, when we consume a corpse, we're going to move faster. It's going to help us move around and gather everything and get to the end of the map to be able to kill them with Thorns with the Bone Ringer. And Aberrant Animator, our minions gain 200% of our Thorns. This is mandatory for the build. Now, some people who play Thorns may wonder, why don't you take Eternal Torment, which makes your curses last forever? Well, cursing lasting forever actually doesn't really help you, and in some cases it can actually hurt you. Let me give you an example. You zone into a Festering Woods, you curse the first monster that you see, and it's your command target, let's say you didn't mean to, and you curse them. Well, now they're taking 200% extra damage the entire rift. If you don't take Eternal Torment, then that curse has a chance to fall off, and your command target will almost always fall to the back of the pack, and you can avoid cursing them to not only get rid of this 200% damage increase, but also to get rid of this 15% increase and this 15% execute. It'll keep your command target alive longer. The whole map is already going to be following right behind you. It just takes one cast of Frailty to reapply any curse that you want. So Eternal Torment is really not that helpful, and I would not advise using it. A lot of people do use it, but to be completely honest, I don't understand why. I would not take Eternal Torment if I were you. Okay, Spear of Hyro. Your Thorns is increased by 15% for every enemy afflicted by one of your curses. So again, we're going to have everything cursed. That's mega damage. One thing that you'll see in the rank 1 clear that I had is I saved a pylon until the Rift Guardian spawned, and then I nemmed the pylon to bring in Elite and all his adds, and then I cursed them. And that gave me a gigantic damage increase against the boss, because there were extra enemies there that I had cursed that helped me kill the boss just in time. Hexing Pants, we're going to deal more damage if we're moving around. Well, we don't have anything that actually attacks, so we've got nothing better to do other than just move around all the time. So be constantly moving around, you're going to deal more damage. And finally, Crispin Sentence. This is in every single Necro damaging build of all time. Deal 100% increased damage against slowed enemies. Remember, we need Death Watch Mantle for that. And triple the bonus if we get any other type of control impairing effect. That's from the Golem. Okay? Let's move on to the Paragon. For the Paragon points, the first thing I'd do is I'd max my movement speed. Really shouldn't need any into max essence. Should be at full all the time with our Devour. And then I'd pour all the rest into intelligence. You can put a few into vitality, however much you need to survive. And the good way to know what you can survive is when you've pulled a whole map full of stuff, when you get jailed, how close are you to dying? Like, are you 1 HP away from dying every single time? Well, if that's true, then make sure that you've got your one roll of reduced crowd control impairing effects. But you should be able to get jailed and not be scared for your life. That's the best way to tell how much vitality you should put in. For offense, the only one that helps us here really at all is cooldown reduction. Then you could put them into attack speed, but crit, Thorns can't crit, so it's completely worthless for us. And then life and armor first here on defense, then I'd take the all resist and then the life per second. Honestly, all of these are pretty good, but you'll get all of them pretty quickly anyway. And then resource cost reduction is the main one that will help here, and none of the other ones really help too much. Alright everyone, now on the right side of your screen in just a moment I'm going to have a pop-up for this video. Last week I actually took rank 1 with this exact build and I wiped the audio and I talked over it and I explained exactly what I did to clear through the whole rift and get the Guardian down. So I'm going to refer to that video for the gameplay, and thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if this helped you, and many more videos are coming. Thank you.